there was a section of the people, the Adivasi or the tribal people, the indigenous people of Orissa, who form almost 1/4 of the population, who were the most marginalized section in Orissa. We decided to work with them. A rather shabby, dirty village where all, at that time about 80 houses were all cluttered together, the front of one house opening to the back of another house. So ultimately, what was most difficult here was the social engineering. All the people ultimately agreed to put their land and into a common pool, divide this whole area into about 90 plots, and each one picked up a lottery or a chit, and whichever number was there, they took that, and then the whole village spread out. And today, they also took a loan to build these houses. They have all repaid the loan. Today, the village is an ideal village with water, sanitation, 2-bedroom houses. Besides 2-bedroom, there is also a dining space and kitchen and a front veranda where they can socialize. Poor people can take their destinies into their hands, provided there is enough facilitation, or as ADB says, a midwifery role for people to play. Then people are more than willing to subscribe, to contribute, to get out of their poverty, to get out of their miserable conditions. Nobody wants to remain miserable. In rural areas, more than 80% of the diseases that are caused are because of poor quality water. And poor quality water was because of our abysmal attitude towards the disposal of human waste. Human waste in its raw form found its way back to the drinking and bathing water, which caused morbidity. Experts, I think, have an urban bias. So, who are the people who are talking and whose voices are heard? These are urban people, the bureaucracy, the politicians who are in power or who are in the opposition, the opinion makers, the journalists, the papers. These are all from urban areas. And urban area, there is some sort of system for sanitation, at least in the better off areas. I am not speaking about the slums. But in rural areas, where the people have to find their own sources of water, and these sources are polluted because the defecation habits. In rural areas, you cannot speak of water, or at least quality water, or protected drinking water, without speaking of sanitation. So it is of utmost importance that we speak of sanitation together with water. In fact, sanitation should come before water, and unless there is a rigorous sanitation program implemented in rural areas, we will not have safe water. Well, changing our habits is a very difficult thing. And people who have been used to open defecation, all of a sudden, to be closed within 3 walls and the front a door to close on them, now and then it takes quite a lot of persuasion and attitudinal change. This is why we in GramVikas, we believe that the entire community of a habitation, 100% of a habitation, have to buy this concept, which means they pay most of the cost, they all subscribe to that, they go through the painful process of constructing the toilet. We, in our case, also do have a bathing room so that women have privacy in bathing. And then what we use is a social pressure. They all agree water flows into every toilet and bathing room. And this is something something fundamental which we believe in, that in India, where sanitation habits are dependent on washing oneself after defecation, you need to have water at hand. So you need to have water in the toilet. So when water is there in the toilet, then all the people in a habitation together decide that from today or from tomorrow, we are all going to defecate or use the toilet. And they also pass a resolution that if anybody does not use the toilet, he would be fined. So very soon, all fall in line. It is the village committee which is authorized by the general body, that means every adult in the village, which says, all right, if for us to make this work, because we have put in so much money, energy and effort, for us to make it work, we need to see that everyone begin to use, otherwise our water again will be polluted. So they decide on the fine, they decide on the mechanism, but usually the fine is 50% goes to the community and 50% goes to the person who discovers somebody defecating in the open. Cities like Delhi, Bombay, or even Bhubaneswar or Berhampur, though it does not have its own water, from far away they will bring water to these cities. But very little has been done for rural areas. They said, okay, they do not need running water. They do not need tap water. So if there is a tube well there, whether it works or not, well, they will find some source of water and come by. Similarly, sanitation. Earlier, it was thought that, open defecation is okay, and if people do not dirty the water and go far away, it was okay. But if people have to clean themselves after defecation with water, then they come closer and closer to water to defecate, which means that pollutes whatever water and even bathing water. Because there is human feces floating all over, your drinking water also get polluted. Organizations like GramVikas, we want to bring in this importance to rural areas, that rural health is as important or more important, because rural people are the people who produce the food for the whole cities and everyone. That we need to give them water, that sanitation is not just about defecation, it's about dignity, and people are ready to pay for building their toilet and bathing rooms. And so there needs to be these sort of midwives to come by these villages, convince them about the need for sanitation, have a mechanism where it is 100% sustainable, and developing mechanisms by which the people pay for the running cost of these mechanisms which are established. Which running cost means paying for the technician who operates the pump, paying for the electricity, paying for the repairs of the pipeline, paying for the repair of the motor if it is to be repaired. So they pay for everything, unlike the city. So these people are paying, and since there is no other alternative, there is nobody else to pay. And if people in rural areas want a higher level of service, they have to pay. First of all, each family has to pay 1,000 rupees to a corpus. But 1,000 rupees on an average. The poor pay less, the better off pay more. So a poor widow may not be paying anything more than, say, 100 rupees. But the rest of the village makes up for her 100, the other 900. So an average of 1,000 rupees per family is put in the name of the village, a registered body of the village, into a corpus and deposited in a bank to earn the highest interest possible. Then the people come together, they bake their bricks, they bring the rubble or stones for the foundation, they bring the sand, they bring the aggregate, and then we also train a team of boys and girls as masons. So when all the materials are collected, these trained boys and girls construct the toilet and bathing room, and the other people supply the materials as well as the unskilled labor to build the toilet and bathing room, and it is done under our technical supervision. Once this is done, from a safe source, water is pumped up to an overhead water tank, and every family gets 3 taps, one in the toilet, one in the bathing room, and one in the kitchen. For the building of the toilet and bathing room, the external materials like cement, steel, door, the toilet pan, this at present is supplied by us as a social cost. And I think it should be proving to the government that this should be a government cost, a one-time social cost to be met for rural people. The corpus fund which is put into a bank, though the fund itself cannot be touched, the interest from that would ensure that in future, any additional houses coming into that village, they would pay the same, whatever be their amount of corpus to the community. And from the interest of the corpus, the social cost will be met. So there will not be any external dependency on the social cost of external materials. So this community is forever in future 100% covered. In cities, yes, people might build their own toilets and bathing rooms. But the labyrinth of sewerage lines that have been laid underneath are laid by a taxpayer's cost. And the battalion of engineers and technicians who keep the sewerage flowing is also a taxpayer's cost. Very little is recovered from the people who, flush their toilets into the pipelines. So if you look at it, in cities, you are having a huge cost all throughout, the life of that toilet, or as long as these people live in cities. But in rural areas, we are not asking anything. The water system is totally taken care of by the people. For the sanitation, we are only asking the cost of external materials. When the government has to spend on each member of a family every year 1,000 or 2,000 rupees on treatment of diarrhea, it is much more costly because the health of that person suffers. The government it's only a curative mechanism. But we have empirical evidence that more than 85% of all waterborne diseases in our 361 villages have reduced because of sanitation. So it is not at all costly when you consider the amount of that the investment is so little compared to the health, and it's only a one-time investment.